Hey there, everyone. This is Certified High Performance Coach Michelle Weimer here with you today. Gonna make an attempt to do a little Wednesday wisdom with you. I started a video a second ago. If you were on that one, I apologize for us getting disconnected, but here we are again. And as I was saying, we're this week, our topic is personality traits, and really more so personality type. If you are familiar with Carl Jung, in the 70s, he developed a theory based on personality types. But we're not just going to talk about your personality type today. We're going to talk about how that coincides with your character traits. And here's the thing, there's a belief that personality type can't necessarily be changed. Now, we're not going to argue that today, whether it can or can't, but the one thing that we know for sure is that your character traits can be altered. They can change. So it's my belief that, take your personality trait or your personality type and just own it. Go ahead and live into it. That's really you at the core. But then show up however you choose. And that's where your character traits can come into play, because if you remember from the beginning of our series here on character, is that those character traits are often displayed in our actions, in how we show up in the world. So if you want to change that, you absolutely certainly can. And so the example I'm going to use today is actually based on one of the most popular, or one of the most commonly known personality traits out there, which is introvert versus extrovert. Okay, so if you've ever taken a personality test, one of your rankings might have been an I or an E, meaning you're introverted or extroverted. So we'll say, for the sake of argument, like I'm going to use myself for an example here today. I'm an introvert. You might not know that, and even people who meet me regularly, like at events or meetups or groups or clients, someone who talks to me on the phone for the first time, maybe doing this Facebook Live, you might be surprised that I'm an introvert, but I am totally an introvert. That's part of my personality type. But here's where being able to change your character traits comes into play. I know that being introverted, being maybe, again, for the sake of argument, I'm going to use myself, like shy or more naturally withdrawn, I know that that doesn't always serve me, especially in my business or in social interactions. And so what I've learned over the years is how to change my character so that I can show up the way I want to show up, so that when I am in a meeting with a client, I can be confident and I can be bold. When I am in a social setting and I'm meeting or engaging with people, I can be outgoing and friendly. So the difference is, again, maybe I'm an introvert, and again, by all means, own who you are. That's one of the beautiful things that makes each and every one of us an individual, is owning who you are. But if you don't like that part of you, for example, I don't like that I'm always shy, or like can be painfully shy or anxious in a social situation. So it's something that I have really worked on, to be more outgoing, to make eye contact with people, to smile, to engage, to be friendly, right? So those character traits come across in those ways. So I'm going to give you three tips, or three ways that you can begin to work on changing your own character traits while you still are true to your personality. And what I mean by that, is being true to your personality. Again, back to my example, because I am an introvert, I know that I need to honor how I feel and make sure that I'm doing something to take care of myself. I know that one of the common characteristics of an introvert is that we need time alone to renew and regenerate and recharge. So I make sure I give myself that time. If I don't have that, it wears me out. Like when I do go to a 4-day event, or when I'm putting on a retreat and doing a 3 or 4 day event, and I have to be outgoing and on, and Oh, it's exhausting. So I make sure every night that I have that downtime to myself so that I can recharge and renew. Because otherwise, I'm not really being true to myself, to my own personality, and that's going to eventually affect me. So I know that I have to do that, but at the same time, I also know every day how I want to show up in all of those situations. So here's my tips for you to kind of help you along in terms of getting yourself from maybe some of those traits that you don't love, and into some new personality traits or some new character traits while still honoring your own personality, being true to yourself. So, first of all, what you need to do is consider your habits. This honestly might be one of the most important pieces of this. Well, I don't know. All of the tips I have for you today are really powerful, but think about this. Considering your habits or your behaviors, right? Um, is a really important thing to look at when you're wanting to change your character traits. Because remember, our character is often displayed by how we act, how we show up, not just what we're doing, but who we're being. But if you look at the habits that you have, for example, myself again, one of the habits that I had to change about my introvertedness, my personality, in terms of my character traits, was I had to really work on making eye contact with people when I walked into a room and smiling at people. Like sometimes us introverts, we were like this, like, like don't I now I'm having a hard time not smiling, but like you get it, right? And if you are an introvert watching this, I know you get it. But I had to work on like keeping my eyes up, making eye contact with people, smiling. And so I began to change my patterns. I began to change my habits and my behaviors, knowing and giving myself cues and reminders that when I walked into a room full of people, that I was, if I wanted to have the character trait of appearing friendly and outgoing, that I had to show that in my behavior, right? So notice your habits, consider your habits. The second tip that I have for you is to notice your beliefs, okay? And this is big because if you are someone that says, oh, well, I'm an introvert, and therefore I'm this, and this. I'm shy, I'm withdrawn, I don't like to be around people, like that maybe some of that is part of your personality, but those sound pretty negative. And I'm using that again, my own self as an example, because um, I'm an introvert. But if I don't want to show up that way, if I want to instead show up and be kind and friendly and outgoing, I can choose that by changing my belief about that, by instead of thinking, oh, well, that's just who I am, right? That's a belief, and that's kind of BS, right? Maybe that's part of your personality, but you get to choose how you show up each and every day in this world. You have control of yourself, and that is a belief that you have the power to change. And by doing that and by changing then that belief, then being able to change those behaviors is so much easier. And then the last little tip that I have for you in terms of changing those character traits so that you still can own who you are, your personality, but yet show up like you want to, is to shift your focus. So what do I mean by that? Well, shifting your focus, it's about seeing yourself as more than just the label, right? So if you have ever taken a personality test and you're like, oh, well, this is this is who I am, you don't have to stay stuck to that label. You don't have to stay stuck to the characteristics that go with that label. You absolutely can redefine what that means for you. So again, the way I have redefined it for myself is really just to say, I know I need downtime. I know I need to rest and to recharge, and I need to do that alone. Like an extrovert, they thrive off of other people and being social. Like that's where they get their energy from. That's great, but that's not me. And so my ability to refocus and reframe what I believe in terms of my personality is that I know I need downtime. I know I need time alone. And part of doing that as an introvert helps me be that outgoing, friendly person that I want to be in terms of how I show up in the world. So define for yourself what it really means for you, and define it based on your strengths. Think about your strengths, right? Like, I know that I am someone who's actually really easy for people to talk to. And so if I am interacting with others, that I know that's a strength of mine, I can feed off of that strength. I can focus on that strength. And then what's really interesting is that I don't have to do all the talking. If I'm feeling particularly withdrawn that day as an introvert and kind of out of energy, I can listen to someone else. I can make somebody else feel comfortable because I know that's one of my strengths. So define for yourself what your personality type means to you, and redefine how you show up based on what you choose. What characteristic traits do you want to exemplify when you are out in the world, whether you're, again, based on our example today, interacting socially with others or in the workplace? You can show up as a leader and still be an introvert, right? And again, today I've only used that one example. I would highly encourage you to take a personality test to find out exactly what your personality type is. There are a lot more characteristics, or a lot more components to that personality type than just introvert, extrovert, but I wanted to use that today as our example because it's one that pretty much everyone knows. So I would love to hear from you. Let me know, what your personality type is and what character traits you're working on shifting so that you can not only honor who you are, but show up as you want to be. So until next week, I want to thank you for joining me here today for our Wednesday Wisdom. And hey, gosh, make sure that you tune in again every Wednesday. And until then, bye for now.